In part one of this video, we were talking about value and the value scale and going from light to dark. Now what I want to talk to you about is more like a gradual transition from this dark to light and how to do that, okay? So you'll need another piece of paper. First, we're going to do a couple things for practice. And what I want you to do is just draw a few lines. They can go however you want. I'm just going to do that just I'm not even filling my whole paper right now. Each line, what I want you to think about is every line has a dark side and a light side. And you're going to have a gradual transition going from dark to light. But one side of the line will always go from dark to light, and the other side will always go from light to dark. This is what helps create dimension. What I mean by that is this line, I'm going to go dark to light. One thing I said is you can use a tissue to blend. I also use my finger a lot. Just go like that. There is a tool called a blending stump that works well. So if I were to draw another line here, and then this one, I'm going to have this side of the line be dark. Ignore my my lettering on the page now because it's irrelevant, just because it's no longer a light side. So here I'm pushing hard on this line, and I want my line to go away. And I want my line to have this gradual blend where it's going from dark to light. So I'm going to go like that there. So this is just some practice. You have some lines, and you can do a few of them and see how it turns out. And then we'll move on. Do about 3 of your lines. And then we're going to turn the page and we're going to go on and do something else. I'll do 3 of my lines just to show you, or I'll just do this section right here and maybe these couple. I'm going to turn these into their own shapes here. These are all their own shapes. So here I'm going dark. And you pick which side, because this doesn't have a light source. This is abstract, which means it's just made of shapes. It's not an actual picture. It doesn't look realistic. So I'm pushing hard by the line to where you can see my line goes away. I'm just going to use my finger here. And then you could always go back in with your eraser and lighten some areas, which I can't find my eraser right now. I'll go back to that. So now this one, I think I'm going to make this the dark side and this the light side of the line. And again, I'm pushing harder by that line. Lighter, lighter, lighter until my pencil barely touches the page. I'll smear it with my finger. You might want to go back in and darken or lighten with your eraser. And this one, I think I'm going to have this be the dark side. And this is the light side of this little section, this little line here. I'll keep this one dark too. And this one, I think I'm going to go dark on this side, light on this side. Pushing hard, medium, lighter, lighter, lighter. Smearing it with my finger. If you don't want to use your finger and get it super filthy, you could also use your tissue. Here, I think I'm going to go dark here, light on this side. Remember, this side of the line is light, so I'm going from this darkness, I'm going lighter, lighter, lighter until I get to that. Your fingers will get really dirty, so as you're blending this, you might want to wash your hands at a certain point or just wait till the end, whatever you want to do. So what happens is it starts to create some dimension where things start to take shape and to have form. Again, this is just a quick, simple little exercise just to try to get you started and to try to help you with shading. Really would love to find my eraser, but I don't have it right here. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. While I'm looking for my eraser, you can continue with your drawing. There it is. Okay, so with my eraser, any spot that's light, I'm gonna go back in. And I'm actually erasing by that line, and then I'm going to do another blend, and it's just going to brighten that a little bit, make it pop. I do this with every drawing. Now if I was doing this with a painting, I would just add more white in these areas, more dark in these areas, and then just the regular color towards the middle, and a gradual transition where I'm adding less of each color or more, depending on what you're trying to do here, okay? I think that's enough for right now, just with practice. Let's move on and do an actual drawing. So again, another piece of paper. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna just draw these shapes. It kind of looks like a leaf. This does not have to look just like mine. So it's rounded and it has a little bit of a point. This one looks a little bit different. That's okay. My hands are really dirty, so you can see here I'm already making a mess. Okay, so I did these 4. They're actually petals. In between each petal, I'm going to make another one. So I'm going to go up, rounded, make a point, and back down. I'm doing that on each side, up, and back down. And you are basically repeating this over and over, okay? So you're going between the petals for each one. So now in between these two, I'm going up, I'm creating that point, and I'm going back around and do one here. For me, it's easier if I turn my paper as I go. You can do it how you want. It's close to a triangle shape, but it also is a little bit rounded on that bottom. See how I do this little curve here? Up and around. And it's up to you how big you decide you want to go. If you want to do the whole page, or if you don't, you can fill this on your entire page if you want. I'm going to just do it this size for time purposes, okay? So what I want you to think about, we were talking about how each line has a light side and a dark side. And we want to eliminate these lines. We want them to go away. And to do that, you're pushing harder at the side of the line that you want dark, and you're gradually pushing lighter and lighter with your pencil. Something else I want you to think about is if something is in front of something else. So this petal is in front of this one. This petal is in front of this one. What I want you to think about is the lighter part is the part that is on top, okay? So in this middle here, I'm going to start, because if this was a flower and it was enclosed, there would be a shadow in here. So I'm going to start right here, and what I do want to keep this side light and this side light. So I'm just starting in this middle and just going up, pushing lighter, lighter, lighter. And then this tip, because there's nothing behind this, I'm going to make that dark actually. And I'm going lighter, lighter, lighter. I'm not going to these edges because these edges I'm keeping light. And I'm going to do that with each one where towards the middle I'm going dark. I'm not going to these edges. I'm pushing lighter, 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 lighter until eventually it fades into white. Pushing dark towards the middle, not going to these edges. Going lighter, lighter, lighter with my pencil. Remember that value scale? It went from a 6 to a 1, 1 being white, 6 being close to black. And you are doing a gradual transition from dark to light. And you can think about this with anything you draw. So where is your light source? That's something we talked about. So where is the light coming from? So that does, knowing where the light's coming from does help, and where your shadows would be. So that's something you want to think about. Here, I'm going to create, this is on top of this. So because this is on top of this for this line, I'm choosing to go dark on this side because it is behind this petal. Same thing here. This is behind this, and it is under this part too. So I'm going to push hard here, and I'm also going to push hard here where this other petal is. Push hard here, and I am gradually going, again, I'm not hitting these edges though, because I want that to stay white because that's on top of this. And I'm just doing that gradual transition. And again, this one doesn't have anything that it's on top of, so I'm going to go a little bit dark there and fade it down. But I don't want the side of this petal to be dark. Okay, and you could blend it with your finger if you want. Now I'm just repeating that over and over again. So these petals are on top of this. So for this line, because this is the part that's underneath, this will be dark. Same thing here, this side will be dark. Again, I'm not going to the sides. The reason I'm not going to the sides is because this overlaps that. It is on top. So I am not going all the way to the sides. But here, I'm going to push harder. But I'm not going to go where this overlaps. I'm going to kind of fade it down, but I'm going to stop like that, okay? And we are doing the same thing over and over again, so I'm going to do that again here. And I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Not coloring these sides. I will color the part that is not overlapping anything else. So here, this is on top of that. Actually still gonna leave these edges white, and I'll show you why after. Okay, so I'm gonna leave these edges white. Actually, I can show you right now. So I'm gonna, because this is white, this side has to be dark. So even though there's nothing underneath that, I'm still gonna create kind of like a shadow. Because I don't want any lines. That's what creates the dimension, by getting rid of these lines. So I'm just gonna fade that. If you want, you could leave these tips light too and do the same thing. It's up to you. So if you want to go back in and maybe you want this to stay light and you want to create that shadow, even though I told you to do it dark, you could lighten it and then create that shadow on the whole thing. So you're just pushing hard, medium, lighter, 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 hard, medium, lighter, lighter, lighter. So remember, you want all of your lines to go away. That's what gives it that three-dimensional effect. It makes it look like your drawing is not quite so flat. I'm gonna lighten this, even though I told you to darken it, because I want to create a shadow. Initially, I didn't have that planned. I do modify and make changes as I'm drawing very, very often. Sometimes it's because I actually just really do not like the way something turned out, or I feel like I made some kind of a mistake, and then I realize what will look better. So I try to come up with some kind of a solution, some kind of a problem solving on how to fix my mistakes. It is easy to just crumble something up. But what I want you to learn is how to work with your mistakes and what to do to fix them. Okay, so some spots, maybe if it doesn't look dark enough or it doesn't have that gradual fade, how can you get that? And it might take practice with you pushing hard, medium, light. That value scale you could try to practice, and you could do it where it's not in squares, where you're having more of a gradual transition. That might help too. So now I'm going to go in. You could take your tissue also. I do have that. And I'm just fading it until it is white or almost white. Remember, that was the value scale of 1. And we're going from 6, which is almost black, to 1, which is white. Now these same rules could apply to anything that you draw. So just think about anything you're drawing. What can you do? How can you get rid of the lines? By getting rid of the lines, it makes it look less cartoon-like and more realistic. And as I'm doing this, some of the spots that I want to stay pretty white are actually getting, see how, like here, I got some of that on there. So you might want to go back through with your eraser and those light spots, especially where I already darkened. I want to go back through. And I could do more at the end, just to try to touch it up. And then you could always, if something looks like, so here this is not as white as I want it, and it's because of what I did, my mistake. So I could always just push harder, which will make that area look like it is a little bit lighter than it is. And you might want to do that because I'm not all the way at a 6 in some of this, and I might want to go back through and push harder and go back around. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with these petals, using the tissue in there. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing I was doing earlier, where if something is in front, it's light, and if it's behind, it's dark. So here I'm pushing harder. I'm not coloring these edges, I'm leaving those white. And I'm just doing this gradual transition from dark to light. Here, this is on top of this, so I'm going to push hard, medium, lighter, lighter, lighter. And then you could always go back through if you want to darken any areas. So I have some where I might want to go back through and make some of it darker. And to make something lighter, again, you'll just use the eraser. So these spots that are supposed to be closer to a 1, you could always go back in with an eraser, especially when you smear it with the tissue. It's hard to get it where that white stays white, so you'll have to go back through. Again, I'm not coloring these edges, just where this is overlapping. Dark, medium, and light. And I will blend that using the tissue or my finger. Dark, medium, light. So now I'm gonna take that tissue and I'm just rubbing it. I'm trying not to go on the white if I don't have to. And if you do, it's okay. You could go back in with your eraser. Okay, so before I go back in with my eraser, I'm gonna go in and darken some areas first. So some of these where it's overlapping, I'm just gonna push a little bit harder. And this is how mine is. You might not have to go back and do this. It just kind of depends how you drew it. But I feel like adding this extra dark just really, really makes it pop. And it just gives it more of that 3D look. It makes it look a lot more realistic than that initial drawing that I had. And you could practice this by drawing whatever you want. If you want to do some, even just abstract, where you draw a bunch of shapes, things like that, and maybe your shapes overlap. Just think about the dark, medium, light. Think about getting rid of your lines. And how can you do that? Which side of the line is light, which side is dark, and some of this just takes a lot of practice. So now I'm going in with this tissue again. And my final step, I'm gonna lighten some areas now, okay? So this is where we're at right now. I don't know if it'll help if I, yeah, that does help a little bit. Okay. So now I'm gonna go in and with my eraser, any spot that's supposed to be the light side of the line, I'm just taking my eraser. This is a gummy eraser that I have. These work pretty well. And you'll notice how that is just really making it pop. It looks a lot lighter because when you smear it, you definitely, the whites, it's easy to smear that and they become more of a light gray. Even the rest of my paper, you can see like some of this, I want to keep it kind of light, and because of my hands and the tissue, that got a little messed up. I am going to go back around this. Okay, and so this is the final result. That's what it looks like. If you have any questions, as always, please ask. If you want to go back in, you might even want to go back in again and do your shadows again. I could always, there's some spots I see that I could definitely darken. If you see a lot of lines in your drawing still, think about what can you do to get rid of them. How can you go from that dark to light? What are you missing? And you want it to have that gradual blend. And like I said, a lot of that will take time. It will take practice. I've had tons and tons of practice. I draw a lot. I always have. So I think practice is key. And I feel like these little rules, if you follow them, it really will change the quality of your art. Remember these same rules. If I draw something for a painting, I always have one side darker and one side lighter. So if I draw what I want, if I drew this and then I were to paint it, I would add white to these areas. I would add black to those areas where I'm trying to get that darker value. Okay, so just think about that whenever you're making anything. It's just all these simple rules, and once you master that, I'm sure you will feel like the quality of your art is much, much better. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, and all right, so we are done. We put the light on it, see if that helps or not. It actually looks better with the light off. So there is that. Remember, you can do it any size. If you want to draw more, maybe you want to draw more on here, you can do that. It's up to you. If you have other designs, so if you draw any other design, you can do the same technique.